Good day, everyone. This is Meredith Leon-McCormack for World Bride Magazine, and I am here with two of the most iconic figures in the wedding industry. I am going to let them introduce themselves to you individually, so you make sure that you take notes as we speak. Elizabeth is calling us in from London, and Camelia, am I saying this right? is calling us in from Italy. So tonight or today, whatever time you guys are going to be listening, we're going to be discussing the conversation. I'm going to be discussing is about the new normal for the wedding destination couple that is, looking to get married either locally or destination wedding, I should say. I think that's more appropriate, because if you're locally in Italy, you want to know what's happening, and Camelia is the person for you to get in contact with. And if you're in London, Elizabeth would be the contact for you. And of course, World Bride Magazine makes it our business to keep in touch with what is going on throughout the world. So ladies, welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you please introduce yourselves? Camelia, please say your name correctly for me so we can do it right.
It's okay. Hi, Meredith. I'm so happy to be here with you. So my name is Camelia Lambru. I'm a destination wedding planner based in Italy, and I'm also the producer of Italian Wedding Awards, which is like an Oscar night for the wedding suppliers in Italy. So I know all the best suppliers of the wedding industry in Italy. And I'm happy to see Elizabeth here. She was our judge for the wedding cake designer.
That's amazing. I love it. You guys are powerhouses that communicate and collaborate. I love it. Elizabeth, Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Meredith, for inviting me to be part of this panel today. My name's Elizabeth Solaru, and I run two businesses. The first is a luxury cake business, and I've run this for about 17 years out of London. And the second company is the Luxury Business Emporium, and I coach and consult with brands into how to get into the luxury industry. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do.
That's a lot. So I'm going to start with you, Camelia. So you have, it seems like you're wearing two hats, several hats. One as the wedding planner and one as the wedding producer, which is still production in itself for both companies. But one is designated to the consumer and one is designated to the providers or the professionals or the vendors.
The providers, yes.
Professionals. So can you explain how each of these companies work and how they complement each other?
Actually, because I came from the corporate events. So I love corporate events. Then I switched on the weddings, and then somehow I combine now in Italian Wedding Awards the corporate and the weddings. But so I love doing weddings, of course, and especially destination weddings. Last year we had a really hard time with destination weddings. But now I'm happy that something it's going back to, like I said before, a better normal, because maybe we are aware about the difficult. We know how to deal with with feelings more, and people want to have maybe small weddings, but intimate with the people they are. The family, the friends, the close friends, and they spend more time and want to give them more experience. It's more about experience in this time, in this moment.
And I think that's what every bride is looking to create, is an experience, or else they could just go to City Hall, get married, say their adieus, and let it be done. It shouldn't be, but the fact of the matter is, when you're in love, you want to share it with the world, and you want to share it with the people you love and who are going to support you. So I think creating the experience, like you said, has become a big business, but a wonderful business for those that are in the professional realm. You know, and there's a difference. I constantly tell people this, and they may be annoyed. You planning your cousin's wedding in the community center is not the same as you planning a wedding with 200 people, strangers, and wrangling them in and making sure that the cake arrived on time, the flowers were delivered at the right location, and the tables were set. And not to mention, you become a psychologist because you need to ask the right questions to make sure that the uncle that hates that other uncle is not sitting at that table, and the grandmother and the mother can get along at least for those next 4 hours, you know. So I think your job as a wedding planner is a big task. It's a tall order, you know. So I respect what you bring to the table. So thank you for that.
And you have also to deal with the companies. It's not like you're going to the restaurant and you have everything there. You have to deal with the company who's providing you the stationery, who's providing the wedding cake, the cater, the location, the music, entertainment, everything. And you have to deal with all of this.
Right.
So it's let us do.
And sit back and enjoy, right? They should sit back and enjoy. Elizabeth, the same question to you. You are also wearing many hats, you know, one as a cake designer, but you're bigger than that because you also have managed to be a phenomenal people connector within the industry. Because I know you've done that for World Bride Magazine. That's the reason why we're sitting here and having the conversation. In your years of becoming a cake designer, first of all, what made you become a cake designer? Because that to me is something else. What made you come into that specific area?
Okay, make a long story short, I've had several careers. So I was a microbiologist, I was a scientist. I was, so things like coronavirus, etc. I would be diagnosing stuff like that in a lab. So I did that for a number of years. And then I did an MBA, career change, went into the city, became a headhunter, and I recruited chief execs and directors, you know, C-suite executives, etc. And 2008, I think the recession kind of it hit. And I lost my job and I had to think of something to do. I've always wanted to make cakes since I was little, but because I come from an African family where education is key, there was absolutely no way my parents would let me go to culinary school. So, but I decided, milestone age, I've been made redundant, let me go and do what I love. So that's how I started making cakes. So I knew nothing about the wedding industry other than brides, and coming new and fresh into the industry, I had to find a way to get clients. So the best thing I could think of, I got the Yellow Pages. It was called the Yellow Pages in those days. It was a phone directory. There was no online directory in those days. There was a massive phone directory, and I started making calls, and I made about, in my first week, I probably made about 50 to 100 calls. And then I started calling and calling and calling. And then I remember this one call. And the reason I remember it is because it's so important not to give up. So I called this number, and a very young girl, a very young voice said to me, "Do you make cupcakes?" Now remember, this was about 16, 17 years ago. And I said, "Of course we make cupcakes." And she said, "Because Lady Elizabeth has been looking for a cupcake maker." And I was thinking, who's Lady Elizabeth? But I didn't think anything of it. So I said to the lady, I said, "Look, I'm going to be in your area in the next 3 days. Are you happy for me to bring you samples?" Now, the The reason I said 3 days is because it would give me time to get a box. It would give me time to get my act together. So I quickly did that. 3 days later, I went, I dropped off the cupcakes. On my way home, I got a phone call. And the young lady at the other end, she said, can you come back, please? Because Lady Elizabeth wants to meet you. So I went back, and it turned out that it was Lady Elizabeth Anson, who is the Queen's cousin. The Queen's cousin, the Queen's party planner. And that's how I got my lucky break. Now, before then, I have been making cakes for friends, family, the occasional, referral. So I had been making cakes, but this was my big break. So I went back, met her, and she wrote me a check. It was from a private bank. I'll never ever forget. It was my first check from a private bank. And I was too poor not to cash it, unfortunately. But so that was how I started. That was how I got my first order in the luxury sector. And the rest, they say, is history. So that's how it came.
That's amazing, amazing. That's something you read in a fantasy book, in something that, a movie. A movie scene that let's create the most impossible situations to happen. Bravo, kudos to you. So now that you're in the industry and your first taste of it, you started at the top. It's not like you started here, now you're here. Yeah. Literally, you started at the top. It's hard to go from here to here. So how do you manage how do you convey it to people why your prices are what they are and why the cost is what it is? How do you go about doing that?
Right. There are several ways in which I do that. So obviously I had my lucky break with Lady Elizabeth, and she was very gracious to me. When she wrote to the suppliers to thank them for our work, she wrote me the most amazing letter, said my cakes were the best she's ever tasted, etc., etc. And then she said to me, you can use this letter anywhere. So she gave me permission. So she wasn't, so this is very important, because number one, the power of referral is key when you are in the luxury sector, because you are only as good as your last job. So the power of referral, number one. Number two, your ability to network. So when people approach me to network with them, I network, but then my brain also thinks about how can I improve? How can I get them? I think about two things. How can I get this person known? Who in my circle can help this person? And how can I get this person elevated? So, because I believe it's not about me. And in fact, sometimes I have done myself a disservice because I am busy promoting other people. So I really, really promote other people. I really go out of my way. I would introduce people. I would say, you guys should meet. And not every introduction works.
Right.
So you need to bear that in mind. So that's number two. Then the third thing I do is when I network on 3 levels. I network with people who are above me, so they are where I want to go. I network with people on the same level as me, so referrals, etc. I will do that, style shoots, again, people on the same level as me, because we're going in the same direction, so we might as well help each other. And then I also network with what I call rising stars. And many of my lucky breaks have actually come from helping rising stars. Wow. It's about being able to spot talent. Right. Because when I was a headhunter, I was very, very good. I don't know how, even if the CV was rubbish, because some people will submit resumes that are so bad, but I was able to detect talent and resilience and determination. So those 3 things are so key. Right. So that's how I network with, and I go out of my way to help people. Because for me, if I can help you, why not? I don't see any reason why I should sit on contacts that can help you. It doesn't do anything to me. So that's how people know me as a connector. Because if I think that, there's somebody that Camelia needs to meet, let's do it. I don't hesitate.
Right.
And when I met Camelia, and she came to me with a vision, to me, I thought it was fantastic.
Wow.
And I was with her all the way, and I saw the vision bigger than probably what she anticipated initially. So that's how I generally, navigate life, and that's how I think that's how I've been able to maintain that level of being where I am today.
Fabulous. You need to write a book. So that's your next thing. Write a book. Just write a book. So if you answered a couple of the questions. So for me, the next question is, how do you go about guiding couples now? Camelia, we can start with you, guiding couples after COVID, during COVID, because we just talked before this call and we said that Australia seems to be going back on lockdown. How do we navigate through this COVID situation and making people feel comfortable traveling, comfortable being in groups? What are your tips in doing that? How can a couple be confident in someone like you as a professional?
Yes, first of all, I have to say that I'm so grateful to Elizabeth, because actually she introduced me to a lot of providers, and I'm really very happy with this. So back to your question. Yes, that's a kind of uncertain about traveling now, and how to deal with this now during the wedding. But with the green pass, I mean, now in Italy here we call it green pass. If you had COVID, or if you are vaccinated, or if you have the test, so you can have your wedding, especially outdoor. So we have a plan, a lot of location of venues with big spaces. Of course, the number is reduced. It's not like we don't have weddings now like 100 people. We still have the distance at the table, and the staff is wearing the mask. I mean, we try to do everything to be safe, but to enjoy the wedding in the same time.
Right.
We have this the same thing in the hotels, or in the place where they are sleeping. We try to keep everything safe, everything clean, everything with this yes, we have to respect these rules, but we don't have to be like closed and to not enjoy the wedding. It's a magic day, and we have to enjoy this.
And I'm glad that you said that, because I think people go from one extreme to the next. You go from nobody wants to get together until everybody wants to come out all at the same time. Nobody wants to wear a mask, and everybody says you have to wear a mask. How do you respectfully ask somebody, have you been vaccinated? And is that even etiquette? Personally, I don't think that's an appropriate question to ask people unless you're going into an event. That I understand. It's like, getting scanned when you go through the airport. That's their job for the safety of the whole community. But individually, people asking those questions gets a little touchy and sensitive. And so I love the fact that you're saying like there's stages in doing it. And I'm sure you as a planner have private, ways of asking people whether they've been tested or not. And that's a discussion you would be having with your couples anyway as their wedding planner. And I think that's one of the main reasons. If people thought they didn't need a wedding planner during COVID, you better get one, because those are the hard questions that you have to ask to keep the group safe,
Yes. I mean, I'm not allowed to ask people do you have your green pass? Did you have the COVID or did you? No, I cannot do it. But I think it's the own responsibility to everyone to keep the safe environment. But I have to stay there and say to a provider or to a guest, please, can you wear the mask if you are standing or if you're going outside? I mean, or keep a little bit the distance at the table. I have to say this, yes.
Right. Because can you imagine the bride having to tell the person, no, move this way, move that way, but who has time?
Yeah, she cannot do it. I feel like I'm a policeman there to do like this, but you have to say in a politely form, but just to say, because it's for everybody, for us, right, for the guests, for the couple.
Right. So that's a pretty big thing right now until things get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. So Elizabeth, do you?
I also go to the kitchen. I go inside to the kitchen and check that everybody's wearing the mask and wearing the gloves. Yes, because I mean, I don't want to have problems.
Right. You're very thorough. That's comforting for readers to know about. Elizabeth, can I ask you the same question? What is it, how do you help brides, couples, feel comfortable gathering together? Because I know it's been challenging for England. I think that you guys were still on lockdown till July. Are you still on lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of partially open now, very small gatherings. But if it's outdoors, for example, we had the football recently. That was about 60,000 people. So people are feeling a bit, especially couples, they're feeling a bit upset because sports, people are allowed to gather for sports. They're allowed to go to the cinema. So why aren't weddings, you can still get married and everything, but there's no dancing indoors. There's no singing. So there are restrictions in place for weddings at the moment in the UK. So over, lockdown this year, last year, I've had to be really, really flexible with a lot of couples. So I would say to them, for example, your deposit is good for up to 2 years, is good to up to a year, because I don't know what the rules are going to be. So we have to build in that flexibility.
Right.
We also agree to hold the price at the same price.
Wow.
Yeah, I held it at the same price because, fair's fair. I don't like, I'm a person of my word, and I put myself in their position. So we've had to do that as well. And then I've had to let them know that when it comes to food, so for example, dessert tables, they can't have a dessert table now because it's open.
Right.
Because there are no buffets allowed. And then I've also had to tell them to go and read the COVID Act. Every country has a COVID Act. And so I've often said to people, read the COVID Act as it pertains to food, as it pertains to, travel, etc., etc. So I've, guided them along that path as well. Also in the UK, you can get free kits to do your testing yourself. So you can self-test and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can self-test and everything. You go to your local chemist, you pick up a box of swabs, and you can self-test. I've also given them guidance. So I've literally given people guidance because I'm a former microbiologist. So these are things that I read and I'm interested in anyway. So I've given a lot of guidance around that. Also, everyone present at the wedding, they need to have their names and addresses and emails and telephone numbers and testing prior to the wedding. So I've had situations where even an intimate gathering has been cancelled because one of the party was flagged by track and trace. So maybe they mingled, and so we've had situations like that. So flexibility has been key. Also trying to encourage them and keep up their spirits, because And also let them know that, yes, you might not have the 300 people wedding you wanted. However, you can have a wedding of 50 people and it can still be very beautiful. The money that you would go on catering, for example, for 300 people, why don't you use that extra money to do other things instead, so you can get the dress of your dreams? Funnily enough, a lot of people still want an amazing cake. They still want an incredible cake, even if it's only 2-3 tiers. They still want an incredible cake, because I often say to them, yes, you may want to have a maybe bigger wedding later on, but sometimes if you decide to have children, if you decide to travel around the world or something like that, you may not have the opportunity to go back and do that. So you might as well make everything beautiful right now. Exactly. It's about the experience. It's about your family. So that's what I've been doing with a lot of my couples.
I think that's the best advice you can give anybody. It's not about, and I think Camelia, we talked about it earlier, and we literally said, it's not about quantity, but it's about the quality of the experience that the couple wants to create for their guests, So yes, now is the time to get that dress that you wanted, because you're going to have less people. And then now is the time to have that wedding in Italy, where you want it to be beautiful, in Tuscany, overlooking the vineyards and all of that. Use that money wisely in a way where it will forever be in the memories of you and your guests, and your photos, of course, so.
Yeah, maybe you can stay a day more, no? Or you can have something different, or you can have the honeymoon also. You can attach the honeymoon also.
I love that. And so, Camelia, I want to ask you one question. Because you have the award show, how do you go about selecting the vendors that you do? I know, Elizabeth touched on it, and she did a great job explaining, your name and your reputation is all you have at the end of the day. And she refers people based on the quality and the service, and she gets many of her businesses through that. How do you select the vendors for you and say, yes, I want to work with you and I'm going to bring you into my team? How do you go about doing that?
Yes, it's not very easy to see the professional only from the website or for the pictures, because of course pictures can be nice, but that it's not equal very professional, no? Okay. So usually I stalker the providers and try to understand how they work, and I try to ask other people, how do you work with that? And also the reviews, because of course the real reviews from the other brides and other couples, it's and that's why I encourage our providers to ask for reviews. I know that it's difficult sometimes. I said, oh, please, can you write something about me? But sometimes, they are not asking, but it's really important.
Right.
That's why in my Italian Wedding Awards, I asked them, I told them, the providers, to ask for the reviews from the brides or for the couples, and also for the other suppliers, because when we work 6 months, 7 months, 8 months behind the scenes, I can say if he's able to work in a team,
right?
How is he working? So that's why I try to select the best providers. Of course, they have to work in somehow in my way, to be aligned with the same view, and to work for the event.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you so much for that. I think that wraps it up for me as far as questions is concerned. I think you women are pretty phenomenal, and I can see why you guys have aligned your forces with your both your businesses, because it does make sense. You have the same common theme and the same common goal, and it is giving each of your clients a wonderful experience, a memorable experience that they can now go back to. So are there any last minute statements that you want to make for our readers and viewers?
Yeah, I would just say that, this pandemic will go away. It's not going to last forever. But the most important thing is to build and treasure those relationships. If you are a bride or a groom and a groom, or a bride and a bride, just make sure that you, and you want to celebrate your union, just make sure that you put your effort into making it as memorable and as experiential as possible. Don't worry about whether you have 1,000 people at your wedding or not. It's more about the immediate people around you, the love you share, and the fact that you're still alive, you're well, you're in love, and you have a bright future together. So I would just say, do what makes you happy, but make sure your guests have an amazing experience within the guidelines as best as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Elizabeth. Camelia?
Yeah, that's what I encourage couples to don't say like wedding now and party later after 1 year or 2 years, because the wedding, it's magic in that day. It's not the same. It can be an anniversary, but it's not the same. When you get married in that moment, you have to celebrate that moment. It's unique.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much, ladies. Can you each give your company name, Instagram, Facebook, social media names so people can follow you? Camelia, can you tell us?
So you can find me like Camelia Lambru or Italian Wedding Awards. The same name on the Instagram, Facebook, whatever, or the site.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
On Instagram, I'm Elizabeth's Cake Emporium. On Instagram as well, my other business is Luxury Business Emporium. And yeah, again, I'm Googleable. If you Google me, Elizabeth Solaru, everything comes up.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. I just want to thank you for your time, and I pray for your safety and quick recovery of both your markets, because I am obsessed with both places, Italy and London. And I look forward to sharing all of this with our readers. So thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. And can't wait to see you in Italy.
I know, we're in New York.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys are coming to New York soon. So I love that. Thank you. Thank you
so much for having us. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So guys, that was Elizabeth and Camelia. We have to go to London. We have to go to Italy. They have to come to New York. Please stay tuned as we continue our journey of nuptials around the world. But I promise you, these are the two top women you need to be following, especially if you want to be connected to the most luxurious experiences in the world. So until the next time, ciao, Bella.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.